Hello again, and welcome back to my little study on the island of Paros, which I mentioned perhaps a little bit often. That's part of the oven there that you can see with an amphora in it. Part of the bakery here. There's a much huger one off screen. Anyway, I want to resume my poem Alone in Amphitheatres. And where are we now? We've been wandering around the place, Tunisia, Italy, Rome. We have been in Epidavros in Greek, most magnificent place. But we are now back chez moi, back in adolescence, well, back in Ireland. I'll start again at this section. 4 or 5 boys cycled along a towpath out of the city by the urbane, sleek canal, as brown as pale ale till it spewed at locks. This led, as in a macabre tale, to a stone ring, where a bear-like dolmen crouched on all fours, baited by boulders like thugs at a fist fight. In the cave of its belly, scarred black by fire, used contraceptives, cans, our era's offerings. The hordes baying around the standing stones were young, all teenagers, few endured long. Think rock concerts and you have prehistory. Their arms flayed in the air, beseeching like famine victims, mobbing a food convoy. While the full moon stood in for floodlights, letting Lenny Riefenstahl have the night off. The druids staged their tricks, as they still do. Does reason sleep? Rather, it goes berserk, freak logic fizzing in the champagne flute, froths over into the lout's Uranus lager. A diplomatic dinner seals the secret treaty. Cell phones ignite with the arson of hatred. The truncheon leads the trumped-up charge. Hiles at Nuremberg are salvos at the front. The napkins on the floor are trampled flags. All right, I think I just pause a little bit there because that I take the boyhood adventure to a stone ring. We have these great stone rings in Ireland, a few of them. You have them in Brittany and around Europe as well. And there was a canal we used to cycle along as kids with some friends, and it leads to this place. It's called the Giant's Ring, and in the middle is a dolmen, and that is a great big boulder, a stone, huge stone, on smaller stones, and it's a space underneath. So I reimagine that. It is, of course, a kind of amphitheatre. Again, this is I think of them, the scholars say that there were all young people around at that time. That the Stonehenge, for example, was built by the young because nobody survived too long. And you think of the crowds of kids dancing and screaming from the Beatles to the present day at rock concert. And of course, I then move into something sinister. That is the ability of people to be aroused, to be misled. And we know where the greatest and most terrible of amphitheatres were. And they were, of course, in Nuremberg. And not just there, they exist today in lollies in different parts of the world. So the moonlight, as I say, stood in for that woman who, in fact, was a marvelous cineast, cinema filmmaker, Leni Riefenstahl. And I say the Druids, that is kind of the fake priests we use a meaning today. A Druid is a kind of, you know, tricking you. Druids stage their tricks, and they still do. That's what that is. So then we have a little bit about does reason sleep? No, it goes berserk, it goes off its head. And the champagne flute is the lager. Lager is the cheap drink that the football hooligans, for example, they drink. And we all have both drunk champagne and lager. Okay, that's a good point. But I also go for the diplomatic dinner. Everybody's polite, but somebody's been betrayed. And so the Heils at Nuremberg, the reference there, are salvos, that is gunfire. Bursts of gunfire is the salvo. And the napkins on the floor, because always after dinner people drop their napkins, are trampled flags, the flags of innocent nations. Okay, I'm going to resume. That is just a little resume. It helps you, again, if you're listening to the poem second time, you might begin to get an idea of what is going on. Sepphoris, it refers to Sepphoris because we're in Greece, and Sepphoris was a great modern Greek poet. And he saw spectators, that people watching the thing, as gutted shells, as the shell without the fish. Sepphoris saw spectators' eyes as gutted shells, and eyes can drain like rock pools at low tide. Within us lie arid cisterns to be slaked, at least until they crack and parch again. Take exploits at night in these spirit quarries. The players light up the beacons and braziers, letting the torchlight flare, burn. Reflections leap. In each socket, silvery mother of pearl. Flattery blinds like flash photography. The exclusive invitation to a seminar, the keynote speaker waiting in the lobby, the works, frank smile, hearty laugh, ha ha, hello, ha ha, quip, joke. You'd be mad not to be paranoid around here. That's the $50,000 a plate fundraiser in a plush casino bankrolls the demagogue who packs out a huge howling stadium. We move on to Mexico. Cactus gave 2 spiky fingers to the Aztec sun. He would not be needled into a drop of rain, plateau and sky, when shallow enamel cauldron, as if after all the earth had turned out to be flat. Human sacrifice was bread and circuses here. Our chance to dress up, see the plucked heart plume as it was held aloft like a sporting trophy. The soulless cigarettes were caulked in blood. I found that void of pity somewhere else, but could not trace it on an outdated map. Then that awful dearth trapped a horse bell, Sachsenhausen. On the Autobahn around Berlin, a sign, the camp entrance off a tidy street, barbed wire encrusted like a crown of thorns. We sketch such like memories in flaky charcoal. With those bone cinders in the barrack square. Let's not pretend the past was so superior. That's another way to despoil the present, to slash and burn, uproot the seeds of hope, eviscerate the future. One instance will do. Back then in Mexico, a ball game in a court where two teams strove for their own ritual demise. What gods exacted such nihilism? Far worse, who dared impose such gods? What was announced in the 7 Echo Hall at Olympia when the Romans tramped in? The end of the world. Well, it was for the Greeks. Their games would be rigged, carpetbaggers would plunder their culture, bootleg the lot. Nero, prize fool of tyrants, raced his chariot here around the noblest circuit ever planned, and fell out. Still, being semi-divine, he won. All right, I think I'll go to pause there again. Here we have the dangers of rhetoric, which the Romans recognized. The danger of a person being able to work up a crowd. And also the evil side of assemblies, because these are quite terrible places that they're in. And when we think of what happened in Mexico, that they did have human sacrifice. They did pull out the still beating heart and hold it up, pumping blood everywhere. So that it releases, the stones are caulked or sealed of these ziggurats, which are pyramids, are caulked, that is sealed in blood like the deck of a ship. All right, so there's a reference there to the kind of great open space in the parade ground of a concentration camp, Sachsenhausen, outside Berlin. Very sobering place. But let us remember that the past, there was kind of false adoration of the past and a condemnation of the present. The cat outside, don't worry about the cat, that's the cat mewing away, wants some food, it'll get it. Back to the poem. Now, the past can't be adored as if it was some golden age, and all this stuff is really quite dangerous. We have to make the world a present age, if not of gold, perhaps a gilded one or a better one. So it looks back and says what was going on. Now, when cultures decline, the great period of ancient Greece from which we draw so much, ended, I think, almost when the Romans, they came marching into Olympia. And what did they do? They had the fool emperor. We have fool would-be emperors, or maybe fool emperors in the world today. Some terrible people rule over us or attempt to rule over us. They're so obvious they don't need to be named in a poem. No, you know who they are. You may even suffer from them. God help you. So there is Nero. He tries to race his chariot around this ancient site where real athletes did things, and he fell out. He fell out. Okay, I think we will just pause there, and we'll have a third session. So again, Rory Brennan here. We'll have a third session in the Amphitheatres, and I wander around them still more. So look, thank you for watching, and as I mentioned, to my friends Raphael Madavi for painting them, and to painting the pictures that go with this book, and for our dear friend Peter Mackin, who made a magnificent job of design and oversaw the production himself. Gratefulness, gratitude to them too from me. Okay, goodbye for now.